In a world where kindness often seems rare, stories that highlight the power of compassion shine through the darkness. Today, we delve into the heartwarming tale of a young boy named Derek, whose selfless act changed not only his life, but also the life of a stranger. This story reminds us that even the smallest gestures can have profound impacts. As we journey through Derek's experience, you'll see how one decision can create ripples of change in ways we never expect. Before we dive into this inspiring narrative, I want to hear from you. Have you ever experienced a moment of kindness that changed your perspective? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. Your stories can inspire others and create a community of positivity. Now, let's get started. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more uplifting content. Together, we can spread kindness and motivation, helping each other to see the good in the world around us. As we unfold Derek's story, picture a cold winter day in Detroit. The air is crisp, and the streets are mostly empty, with only a few people hustling to get home. Derek, bundled in his worn-out jacket, is just trying to stay warm. But as he walks past an old man huddled against a wall, something pulls at his heart. The sight of the man's trembling frame stirs a deep sense of empathy within him. Derek knows the chill of winter all too well, yet he feels compelled to help. He approaches the old man, digging through his pockets for loose change, but quickly realizes that money won't provide the warmth this man desperately needs. In a moment of bravery, Derek makes the difficult decision to give away his only jacket. As he drapes it over the frail shoulders of the old man, he feels the cold seep deeper into his bones. But somehow, he also feels a warmth growing in his heart. This single act of kindness sets off a chain of events that neither Derek nor the old man could have anticipated. How often do we overlook the people around us, lost in our own struggles? Derek's story is a reminder that we can make a difference, even when we feel like we have nothing to give. Stay tuned as we explore the unfolding effects of Derek's choice. And remember, your engagement matters. Leave a comment sharing your thoughts, hit that like button, and subscribe for more stories that inspire us to be better and do better. Together, we can create a world where kindness reigns. On a chilly winter afternoon in Detroit, Derek hurried down the streets, his breath visible in the frigid air. The sun had begun to dip behind the buildings, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch across the empty roads. As he walked, his mind buzzed with thoughts of home, responsibilities, and the little money he had earned from odd jobs. He had just completed a tiring task clearing someone's yard and was looking forward to a warm meal with his mother. The streets were mostly deserted, save for a few hurried pedestrians and the occasional car passing by. Derek pulled his worn jacket tighter around himself, feeling the cold seeping in. He had learned to adapt to the chill, but today felt particularly biting. The weight of the world rested on his shoulders, yet he trudged on, determined to make it home before nightfall. As he approached an old laundromat, a familiar corner store came into view, the sign flickering in the dim light. Just then, a voice called out to him. "Yo, Derek." It was Mike, a guy from his neighborhood, bundled up in a heavy coat, taking a drag from a cigarette. Derek slowed his pace, offering a small wave in response. "Same old. Man, you good?" Mike asked, his breath visible in the cold. "Yeah, just heading home," Derek replied, trying to sound upbeat, but the weight of worry lingered in his voice. "Stay warm, bro. It's freezing out here," Mike shouted after him. Derek nodded but felt the chill cut deeper as he continued his walk. His thoughts shifted again to his mother, who was already stressed about rent. Every penny counted, and he wished he could do more to help her. As he turned a corner, something caught his eye, a figure huddled against the brick wall of an abandoned shop. It was an old man, sitting with his arms wrapped around his knees, his face turned down. Derek squinted, trying to make sense of the sight. The man wore layers of thin clothing that offered little protection against the cold. His lips were blue, and he shivered violently, as if he were trapped in a nightmare from which he could not escape. Derek stopped in his tracks, his heart racing. He could see the man's frailty, the way his body trembled against the harsh wind. It struck a chord deep within Derek, and he felt compelled to help. He took a deep breath, trying to quell the rising pit in his stomach. As he approached, He could hear his own breathing, the sound echoing in the stillness around them. The old man looked up briefly, and their eyes met. In that instant, Derek felt a connection, a silent understanding of suffering. He crouched down, digging through his pockets to find the loose change he had earned from his earlier work. "Here, sir," Derek said softly, holding out the coins. His voice was low, almost hesitant. The old man looked at the coins with distant eyes, then shook his head. "No, thank you," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "Come on, take it. It's not much, but it might help you get something warm." Derek insisted, his heart aching at the sight of the man's despair. The old man gave a weak smile but still didn't reach for the coins. Derek felt a wave of frustration wash over him. He stayed there for another moment, unsure of what to do. The cold air bit at his skin, but the sight of the old man was a reminder of their shared humanity. Suddenly, a thought struck him. He looked down at his jacket, the only warmth he had against the biting cold. It wasn't much, but it was his lifeline. Derek hesitated, glancing up and down the street. People walked past, casting quick glances at the old man before turning away, unwilling to confront the reality before them. Swallowing hard, Derek chewed on his lip, torn between self-preservation and compassion. Then, with determination, he knelt back down. "Sir, listen," he said, unzipping his jacket and feeling the rush of cold air against his chest. "You need this more than I do." He slid the jacket off his shoulders and draped it over the old man's back. "Just take it." "All right," he urged, his voice shaking slightly. The old man's eyes widened in disbelief, and tears filled them as he reached up to touch the jacket, as if it were a precious gift from the universe. Derek stood back up, shivering as the chilling wind enveloped him. He wrapped his arms around himself, trying to retain whatever warmth he had left. "Thank you, boy," the old man said, his voice thick with emotion. "You're a good soul." Derek nodded, feeling a mixture of pride and worry wash over him. He turned to leave, his heart heavy with the weight of the decision he had just made. As he walked away, he felt the cold bite at his skin, but somehow, he also felt a warmth grow inside him, a sense of having done something right. By the time he reached his apartment building, Derek's fingers were numb, and he could barely feel his face. He fumbled with the door handle, managing to get it open and stumbling inside. The warmth of the hallway was a small relief, but it didn't chase away the deep cold in his bones. His mother opened the door, her eyes widening in concern. "Derek, where's your jacket?" she asked, her voice sharp with worry. I gave it to someone who needed it more," he replied, trying to sound nonchalant, but his voice trembled slightly. She stared at him, her expression shifting from worry to something resembling pride. "You're going to catch your death out there," she muttered, grabbing a blanket from the couch and wrapping it around him. "I'm fine," Derek said, though his teeth were chattering. He hugged the blanket tighter, feeling the warmth of his mother's love envelop him. Little did he know, this moment of selflessness would set off a chain of events that would change not only his life, but also the life of the old man he had helped. His simple act of kindness would soon lead to unexpected rewards, reminding both of them that the world still held hope and compassion, even in the coldest of times. The morning sun peeked through the thin curtains of Derek's small bedroom, casting a soft glow on the walls. Yet, the warmth of the light did little to dispel the chill that had settled deep in his bones. Derek awoke with a sore throat and a heavy feeling in his chest, remnants of the cold he had endured the previous day. He rubbed his eyes, wincing at the discomfort, and took a moment to collect himself before rolling out of bed. As he stepped onto the cold wooden floor, he shivered involuntarily. The blanket his mother had wrapped around him the night before had slipped off during the night, leaving him exposed to the drafty air. He shuffled to the bathroom, where he splashed cold water on his face, hoping it would awaken him from the sluggish state that clung to him. "Morning, Mom," he croaked, his voice hoarse as he made his way into the small kitchen. The smell of eggs and toast hung in the air, a comforting aroma that usually brought him joy. But today, it felt overshadowed by the weight of his own discomfort. His mother stood at the stove, her back turned to him, as she flipped the eggs in the pan. "Morning, Derek," she replied, her tone mixed with concern. She turned to face him, her eyes narrowing slightly as she took in his appearance. "You look terrible. Are you feeling okay?" "Just a little sore throat," he replied, trying to downplay it. He reached for a mug of hot tea she had set aside, wrapping his fingers around it to absorb the warmth. It felt good against the chill of the morning. "You should probably stay home today," she suggested, her brow furrowing with worry as she handed him the tea. "I don't want you to get worse." Derek shook his head, determined not to let his mother's worry weigh him down. "No, I can't miss school, especially math. I'll be lost," he insisted, forcing a small smile to reassure her. She sighed, knowing how stubborn he could be. "Just promise me you'll take it easy and bundle up. You need to think of yourself too," she said, her voice softening. She moved to the closet and pulled out an old, worn hoodie, handing it to him. "Here, take this. It's not much, but it'll help." "Thanks, Mom," he said, pulling the hoodie over his head. It felt thin and frayed, but it added another layer against the cold that still lingered in the air. He sat down at the small table, where she placed a plate of eggs in front of him. "Eat up," she said, her hands brushing over his hair affectionately. "You need to keep your strength up." Derek poked at the eggs, his appetite waning. He took a small bite, chewing slowly, but the food felt heavy in his stomach. His mind drifted back to the old man he had given his jacket to, and he felt a pang of concern. He wondered if the man had found shelter or warmth during the frigid night. "Are you heading to school today?" his mother asked, breaking him from his thoughts. "Yeah, I have to," Derek replied, glancing at the clock. He knew he couldn't afford to miss another day. "Math is important. I'll be fine. Just be careful out there," she warned as he finished his meal. "I don't want you getting sick." "I won't, Mom. I promise," he reassured her, though he felt a wave of uncertainty wash over him. After finishing his breakfast, Derek grabbed his backpack and slung it over his shoulder. As he stepped outside, the cold hit him like a slap in the face. He hugged himself tighter, trying to preserve whatever warmth he could muster. The streets were quiet, and the wind howled through the alleyways, making him shiver. The walk to school felt longer than usual. Each step was a reminder of the cold that gnawed at him. As he walked, he could see other kids bundled up in thick winter coats, their faces hidden behind scarves and hats. Derek felt out of place in his thin hoodie, a stark contrast to the warmth that surrounded them. Halfway to school, he passed the same alley where he had encountered the old man. He glanced over, hoping to see him again, but the spot was empty. A feeling of unease settled in his stomach. Had he found somewhere warm to sleep? Was he okay? Derek paused for a moment, staring at the wall, memories flooding back. The old man's trembling hands, the tears in his eyes, those images haunted him. Just then, he heard a familiar voice calling his name. It was Mike again, bundled in his heavy coat, looking concerned. "Hey, Derek, where's your jacket?" he asked, furrowing his brow as he approached. "I gave it away," Derek replied, feeling a mix of pride and vulnerability. Mike stared at him, disbelief etched on his face. "You did what? In this weather?" "There was this old guy who needed it more," Derek explained, suddenly feeling uncomfortable under Mike's scrutiny. "Dude, you're crazy," Mike said, shaking his head. "You could catch something like that. Here, take my extra scarf." He unwound his thick scarf from around his neck and held it out. Derek hesitated for a moment, then accepted it, wrapping it around his neck. "Thanks, man. I appreciate it," he said, feeling a bit warmer already. "Just don't do anything that's stupid again." "All right," Mike said, giving him a light punch on the arm. Derek smiled, grateful for his friend's concern. "No promises," he joked back, trying to lighten the mood. They walked together, the cold still biting at Derek, but the scarf helped shield him a little from the wind. When they arrived at school, Derek felt a mix of anxiety and determination. He slipped into his first class, but his mind kept drifting back to the old man. He wondered how he was doing, if he had found somewhere safe to sleep that night. Despite his own discomfort, Derek couldn't shake the feeling that he had done the right thing by giving his jacket away. As the day dragged on, he struggled to focus in class, His throat still ached, and the cold seemed to seep deeper into his bones. Lunchtime came, and Derek sat at a table in the cafeteria, pulling out a small sandwich his mother had packed for him. He took a few bites, but his appetite was all but gone. "Hey, Derek," a girl from his history class, Lisa, approached him with her lunch tray. "Mind if I sit?" "Yeah, sure," he replied, shifting his bag to make room for her. "You look freezing. Where's your coat?" Lisa asked, her eyes wide with concern. Derek sighed, feeling a bit embarrassed. "I gave it away," he admitted. "There was this guy who needed it more." Lisa blinked, her expression softening. "That's really kind of you," she said, a smile breaking across her face. "But you seriously need to stay warm too. You're going to get sick like this." "I know," Derek replied, feeling the weight of her words. She reached into her bag and pulled out a pair of gloves. "Here, take these. They're my brother's, but he never uses them. You need them more." Derek hesitated, then accepted the gloves, slipping them on. They were a bit big, but they felt warm against his skin. "Thanks, Lisa. I appreciate it," he said, grateful for her kindness. As they sat together, Derek felt a little warmth from the gloves and scarf, but the cold still gnawed at him. He couldn't help but think about the old man and how he had sacrificed his own comfort for someone in need. The rest of the day seemed to crawl by, and when the final bell rang, Derek felt utterly exhausted. The walk home was as long as ever. Each step felt heavier than the last, and the wind continued to bite at his exposed skin. He wrapped the scarf tighter around his neck, trying to block out the chill. As he rounded the corner to his street, he saw a shadowy figure in the alley. His heart raced as he approached, wondering if it could be the old man. But as he got closer, he realized it was just a pile of discarded boxes. Relief and disappointment washed over him in equal measure. He hoped the old man had found warmth, but the absence of his presence left a nagging sense of unease. Finally, Derek reached his apartment building, the thought of warmth and safety propelling him forward. As he stepped inside, he felt the familiar embrace of warmth wash over him, but it couldn't fully chase away the chill that had settled in his bones. His mother was in the kitchen, and when she saw him, her eyes widened in concern. "Derek, you look frozen. Get in here," she called out, pulling him inside. "I'm fine, Mom," he insisted, though his teeth were still chattering. "Sit down. I'll make you some hot tea," she said, her voice thick with worry as she headed to the kettle. As he settled down at the table, wrapped in the blanket she had given him, Derek reflected on the day. Despite the cold and discomfort, he felt a sense of purpose, a belief that his actions mattered. The warmth of his mother's love and the kindness of his friends reminded him that he wasn't alone in this struggle. Derek's thoughts drifted back to the old man. What had he done to deserve such suffering? And why had Derek felt compelled to help him when he himself was in need? These questions lingered in his mind. But one thing was clear: kindness had a way of connecting people, even in the darkest of times. As the evening wore on, Derek's heart swelled with hope. He may have given away his jacket, but in doing so, he had discovered something infinitely more valuable: compassion and the realization that even in hardship, there was a light that could guide the way. The days passed slowly for Derek, each one marked by the lingering chill of winter and the persistent ache in his throat. He attended school, bundled in layers and relying on the kindness of friends who offered him scarves and gloves. Despite the warmth provided by those small gestures, his thoughts often wandered back to the old man he had helped. Was he safe? Had he found warmth? The questions gnawed at Derek, painting a shadow over his daily routine. One particularly cold afternoon, as Derek walked home from school, he took a different route, hoping to catch a glimpse of the old man. The streets were quieter than usual, the biting wind chasing people indoors. As he walked past the alley where he had first encountered the man, his heart raced with anticipation. Perhaps today he would find him there, bundled and safe, perhaps even sharing a smile of gratitude. But when he reached the alley, it was empty. The old man was nowhere to be seen, and a deep sense of disappointment washed over Derek. As he turned to leave, he noticed something unusual, a glimmering object lying against the wall. Curiosity piqued. He approached it cautiously. It was an old, weathered wallet, its leather cracked and worn, but something about it seemed familiar. Derek picked it up, feeling the heaviness of it in his hands. He opened it carefully, revealing a few crumpled bills, a faded photograph, and an identification card. As he examined the card, recognition hit him like a bolt of lightning. The name on the card read, Henry Thompson. That was the same name the old man had mentioned during their brief encounter. His heart raced as he realized he might have just found a clue, perhaps a way to return the wallet to its owner. Derek's mind raced with possibilities. What if Henry had lost this wallet while searching for help? What if he needed it to buy food or find shelter? Derek felt a surge of responsibility. He couldn't just leave it there. Clutching the wallet tightly, he hurried home, determination fueling his steps. Once inside, he dropped his backpack on the floor and rushed to his mother, who was preparing dinner in the kitchen. "Mom, I found this," he exclaimed, holding up the wallet. "It belongs to the old man I helped." His mother turned, her expression shifting from confusion to concern. "Derek, are you sure? How do you know it belongs to him?" "He mentioned his name was Henry," Derek explained, his voice rising with excitement. "I need to find him. He could be in trouble." His mother sighed, looking at the wallet with a mix of apprehension and admiration. "That's very kind of you, Derek, but you need to be careful. You don't know what situation he's in." "I know, but I can't just ignore it," he insisted. "What if he needs this?" His mother nodded slowly, recognizing the fire in her son's eyes. "All right, but let's think this through. We can drive around the neighborhood and look for him. It's too cold to be out there for long." Derek felt a surge of gratitude. "Thanks, Mom. Let's go." They quickly bundled up, Derek feeling a rush of hope as they stepped out into the frigid air. The car's heater quickly warmed them, and as they drove through the familiar streets, Derek's heart raced with anticipation. He scanned every corner, every alley, hoping to catch a glimpse of Henry. As they passed a local park, Derek spotted a figure huddled on a bench, wrapped in layers of clothing. His heart raced. "Stop. That could be him." His mother quickly pulled over, and Derek jumped out of the car, rushing toward the bench. As he got closer, he realized it was indeed Henry, but he looked different than before, paler and more worn down, as if the weight of the world had settled heavily on his shoulders. "Henry," Derek called out, approaching cautiously. The old man looked up, surprise flashing across his face. "Derek?" Henry said, his voice hoarse but filled with warmth. "Is that really you?" "I found your wallet," Derek exclaimed, holding it out. "I didn't want you to go without it. I thought you might need it." Henry's eyes widened as he took the wallet from Derek's hands. You found this?" He opened it carefully, his hands trembling. "I thought I'd lost everything." Derek felt a swell of relief wash over him. "I'm glad I could help. I've been worried about you. Are you okay?" Henry hesitated, his gaze drifting to the ground. "It's been tough, young man. I've been trying to get by. But the cold, it's relentless." Derek's heart ached for the old man. "Is there somewhere you can go? A shelter or something?" Henry shook his head. "I've been avoiding shelters. They can be unpredictable, and I can't take that risk." Derek's mind raced. He wanted to help but felt overwhelmed by the enormity of the situation. "What if we helped you find a place? My mom and I can assist you." Henry looked up, his eyes shimmering with gratitude. "You're a good boy, Derek, but I don't want to be a burden." "You're not a burden. You helped me, and now I want to return the favor," Derek insisted, his voice firm. "You deserve to be warm and safe." Just then, Derek's mother stepped forward, concern etched on her face. "Henry, would you consider coming to our home for a warm meal? We have space, and it would be nice for you to be indoors for a while." Henry looked between them, uncertainty in his eyes. I don't want to impose." "It's not an imposition," Derek's mother urged gently. "We'd love to have you, just for a little while." After a moment of silence, Henry's shoulders seemed to relax. "All right," he said softly, a hint of hope creeping into his voice. "Thank you." The three of them made their way to the car, and Derek felt a surge of warmth in his heart. He had made a difference, and now he could help Henry find a sense of comfort. As they drove back to their apartment, Derek couldn't help but feel a sense of purpose blossoming within him. Once they arrived, Derek's mother led Henry inside, offering him a place to sit at the kitchen table. Derek hurried to prepare a warm meal, his hands moving quickly as he heated up soup and bread. As the aroma filled the air, he felt a sense of accomplishment. He was doing something meaningful, something that mattered. When the meal was ready, he served Henry a bowl of steaming soup. Watching as the old man took his first sip, Henry's face lit up with gratitude, and Derek felt a sense of joy spread through him. "This is wonderful," Henry said, savoring the warmth of the soup. "Thank you, both of you. You don't know how much this means to me." Derek smiled, content to see Henry enjoying the meal. "I'm just glad you're here," he said. "You deserve this." As they shared stories over dinner, laughter filled the small kitchen. Derek learned about Henry's life, the challenges he faced, and the dreams he once had. Henry spoke of his family and the love he had shared, and Derek listened intently, feeling a bond growing between them. After dinner, they moved to the living room, where Derek's mother offered Henry a cozy blanket. They settled in, the warmth of the room wrapping around them like a comforting embrace. Derek felt a sense of peace, knowing that he had played a part in helping someone in need. Just as they began to relax, there was a knock at the door. Derek's heart raced as he exchanged glances with his mother and Henry. Who could that be? His mother wondered aloud. Derek moved to the door and opened it cautiously. His eyes widened in shock as he saw a well-dressed man standing there, his face illuminated by the porch light. "Excuse me, is this the home of Henry Thompson?" the man asked, his voice steady and warm. "Yes, it is," Derek replied, confusion washing over him. The stranger smiled, relief flooding his features. "Henry, I've been looking everywhere for you." Henry's eyes widened as he stood up from the couch. "Walter, is that you?" "Indeed, it's me," the man said, stepping inside. "I've been worried sick. I heard you were in town, but I didn't know where to find you. I'm so glad I found you." Derek stood frozen, trying to make sense of the situation. Who was this man, and why was he looking for Henry? Henry approached Walter, his voice trembling. "How did you find me? I've been searching this neighborhood for days. I heard you helped a young boy recently, and I thought maybe he would know where you were." Walter explained, his eyes glistening with emotion. Derek felt a surge of pride at being part of this connection. "I found his wallet, and we helped him get warm," he interjected, feeling the significance of the moment. Walter turned to Derek, gratitude shining in his eyes. "Thank you for looking after Henry. He means a lot to me." Feeling a sense of camaraderie, Derek replied, "He's an incredible person. I'm glad we could help." As the three of them sat down together, Derek listened as Walter and Henry shared stories from the past. It turned out that Walter was an old friend of Henry's from years ago, someone who had been searching for him after hearing about his struggles. Their reunion was a testament to the connections that could be forged through kindness and compassion. The warmth of the room enveloped them as laughter and stories filled the air. Derek felt a sense of fulfillment wash over him, knowing that his small act of kindness had led to something greater. Henry was no longer alone. He had friends who cared, people who valued him. As the night wore on, Derek learned that Walter had arranged for Henry to stay with him for a while, offering him a safe place to sleep and the support he needed to get back on his feet. The unexpected twist of fate had transformed the evening into a celebration of friendship, compassion, and the incredible power of community. When Walter finally left, promising to return the next day to help Henry settle in, Derek felt a sense of joy radiating through him. He realized that what had started as a simple act of kindness had blossomed into something extraordinary. Derek knew that he had not only helped Henry, but had also learned a vital lesson about the importance of connection and caring for one another. In a world that often felt cold and uncaring, they had created a warmth that would last, a warmth that would inspire others to reach out, to help, and to believe in the goodness of humanity. As he settled into bed that night, Derek felt a profound sense of peace. He had made a difference, and in doing so, he had discovered the true meaning of compassion. The cold winter nights ahead no longer felt daunting. Instead, they were filled with the promise of warmth and the power of kindness. a reminder that even the smallest gestures could lead to the most unexpected and beautiful twists in life. As the days turned into weeks, Derek found himself reflecting on the events that had unfolded since he first gave his jacket to Henry. The world outside continued to chill, but within his heart, a warm flame of compassion burned brightly. His connection with Henry had changed him in ways he had yet to fully comprehend, and he was eager to share the lessons he had learned with others. With Walter's help, Henry had begun to establish a new routine. After a few nights spent at Walter's place, Henry transitioned to a small apartment nearby. Courtesy of Walter's connections and a bit of assistance from local charities, it was a modest space, but it was warm and safe, a sanctuary where Henry could start to rebuild his life. Derek felt a swell of happiness every time he visited, witnessing the gradual transformation of the old man who had once been lost in the streets. Derek often spent weekends with Henry and Walter, helping them settle into their new lives. They would share meals, laughter, and stories, creating a bond that transcended age and circumstance. Henry would recount tales of his youth, filled with adventures and dreams, while Walter would chime in with humorous anecdotes, bringing joy to the group. Derek would listen, hanging on every word, feeling as though he had gained not just a mentor but a family. One afternoon, as they sat around the kitchen table enjoying homemade soup, Henry turned to Derek, his eyes shining with gratitude. "You know, young man, you've taught me something invaluable. It's never too late to show kindness, and sometimes it takes just one generous act to change a life." Derek felt warmth spread through him at Henry's words. "I just did what I thought was right. I didn't expect anything in return. That's the beauty of kindness," Walter added, nodding in agreement. "It often comes back to you in ways you least expect." Your selflessness has inspired not just Henry, but also everyone around you." Derek smiled, feeling a sense of pride swell within him. He had never thought of himself as a particularly remarkable person. He was just a kid trying to navigate life's challenges. But now, he understood that anyone could make a difference, no matter how small. As winter melted into spring, Derek decided to take his newfound understanding of kindness a step further. He organized a community cleanup day at his school, rallying his classmates to come together and make a difference in their neighborhood. With the help of his teachers and the support of his friends, they cleaned up litter, planted flowers, and painted murals on the walls of the local park. On the day of the event, Derek felt a mix of excitement and nervousness as he stood in front of his classmates, ready to speak. "Thank you all for being here today," he began, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "This project is about more than just cleaning up our neighborhood. It's about kindness and community. When we come together, we can create something beautiful and meaningful." His words resonated with his classmates, igniting a sense of purpose among them. They worked tirelessly, laughing and chatting as they transformed the park into a vibrant space for everyone to enjoy. Derek watched with pride, knowing that each person there was contributing their own piece of kindness to the world. As they stood back to admire their work, Derek felt a sense of accomplishment wash over him. The park was now a reflection of their collective effort, a testament to what they could achieve when they put their hearts into it. He realized that kindness was not just an isolated act. It was a ripple effect that could inspire others to do the same. Weeks later, Derek received an unexpected surprise. He was invited to speak at a local community center about his experiences and the importance of kindness. Standing in front of a room filled with people of all ages, he felt a mix of nerves and excitement. But as he began to share his story, his encounter with Henry, the lessons he had learned, and the impact of small acts of kindness, he felt empowered. "Kindness is a choice we can all make," he said, his voice steady. "It doesn't matter how small the gesture may seem. A simple act can change someone's life in ways we may never fully understand. Let's all strive to be the reason someone believes in the goodness of people." As he finished speaking, the room erupted in applause. People approached him afterward, sharing their own stories of kindness and how they had been inspired to make a difference in their communities. Derek felt a sense of fulfillment, knowing that his words had resonated with others. Meanwhile, Henry had become an integral part of the community as well. With Walter's support, he started volunteering at local shelters, sharing his story with those in need and offering guidance to anyone who would listen. He often spoke about Derek, the boy who had given him hope when he had felt lost. The connection between them served as a reminder that kindness could bridge generations and transform lives. One evening, Derek visited Henry's new apartment, bringing along a few baked goods his mother had made. As they sat together, indulging in the treats, Henry turned to Derek with a smile. "You've changed my life in more ways than you know. You taught me that it's never too late to find warmth in this world." Derek felt a lump in his throat, overwhelmed by the weight of Henry's words. "You've taught me so much too, Henry. You've shown me that kindness is a powerful force, capable of healing and transforming." As spring blossomed into summer, Derek's commitment to kindness continued to grow. He initiated a kindness week at school, encouraging students to perform acts of kindness and share their experiences. The response was overwhelming. Students wrote notes of appreciation to teachers, helped clean up local parks, and volunteered at shelters. The atmosphere in the school shifted, filled with a sense of community and camaraderie. Derek found himself reflecting on how a single decision, a simple act of giving away his jacket, had led to a cascade of kindness that had rippled through his life and the lives of others. He realized that the world could be a better place, one small act at a time. On one particularly sunny day, Derek and his friends organized a picnic in the park, inviting everyone from the local community. They set up tables, laid out blankets, and filled the area with laughter and joy. Henry and Walter were among the first to arrive, bringing homemade dishes and smiles that radiated warmth. As they all gathered to share a meal, Derek looked around at the faces of those he had connected with, the friends he had made, the lives he had touched, and the community he had helped build. It was a moment of pure joy, a celebration of kindness that had come full circle. As the sun began to set, casting a golden hue over the park, Derek stood up to address the crowd. "Thank you all for being here today. This picnic is not just about food. It's a celebration of the kindness we've shared and the connections we've built. Let's continue to spread kindness in our daily lives, reminding each other that we're all in this together." The crowd erupted in applause, and Derek felt a rush of gratitude. It was a moment he would cherish forever, a reminder of how far he had come and the incredible power of kindness. That night, as Derek lay in bed, he thought about the journey he had taken. He had learned that kindness was not just about grand gestures. It was in the small, everyday actions that could change lives. It was about seeing the humanity in one another, about reaching out when someone needed help, and about sharing love and compassion freely. Derek drifted off to sleep, content in the knowledge that he had made a difference, not just in Henry's life, but in his own and in the lives of many others. He understood that kindness was a gift that kept giving, and he was determined to keep the flame of compassion alive in his heart, lighting the way for others to follow. In the end, Derek had discovered that kindness was a lesson worth sharing, a legacy worth building, and a way of life that made the world a brighter place. And as he closed his eyes, he knew that he would continue to nurture that flame, letting it guide his actions and inspire others for years to come.